The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Could you just state your name and then spell your last name for the court?
Heather Wilson, Wilson.
Sorry, I'm just trying to gather some of the exhibits so I'm not walking back and forth quite as much. May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Captain Wilson. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Where do you work?
Horry County Police.
How long have you worked there?
For since 2005. Sorry, it's been so long I almost forgot.
Do you have any prior law enforcement or military experience before joining Horry County Police Department?
Yes, I worked for Myrtle Beach for about 9 months, and prior to that, I worked in Danville, Virginia, as a police officer in Danville City Police Department.
What is your current assignment?
Currently, I am a captain, and I am assigned to the 2nd Precinct, which is also referred to as the South Precinct, and that is in the Socastee Burgess area of the county.
What was your assignment before that?
So before I was promoted to captain, I was the supervisor in the crime scene division.
Did you hold that position both as a lieutenant, since you were just promoted to captain?
Yeah, so it would probably be easier if I spent almost 10 years in crime scene as a detective, and then went to homicide division and worked as a detective, was promoted to sergeant, worked on patrol, and then came back to the crime scene division as a sergeant. And then ultimately I was promoted to a lieutenant in the a lieutenant in the crime scene section, where I stayed until I was promoted to captain.
Thank you. That was much better worded than my question. So both as the sergeant and the lieutenant in crime scene, what types of responsibilities did you have?
So ultimately the responsibilities were the same. As far as overseeing the crime scene division, I would also go and help or assist with scenes. I would take on my own scenes. I would help with training the new crime scene investigators that would come in, reviewing reports, fingerprints, processing of evidence, ordering, and then just normal business type things that you would think in any job.
If I'm doing my math in your timeline correctly, you were working in the crime scene unit in October, November of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. As part of your rotation in the crime scene unit, did you become involved in sort of globally the missing persons that turned into a homicide of Gregory Rice?
I did.
Directing your attention specifically to November 8th of 2020, did you respond to a call for service regarding human remains that had been found in the Little PD River?
Yes, I did.
Did any other crime scene investigators go with you?
Yes, at that time we had another crime scene investigator that I was training. He was brand new, and he responded as well.
Great. Were you familiar with that location prior to responding this night?
Yes.
So if we could, Your Honor, 51 has already been admitted and published. I'd just like to show that again. Is that the area to which you responded?
Yes, it is.
When you first got there, can you just describe what you saw? Were there other people there? What was sort of going on?
There were other people there. Meagan County Sheriff's Office was there, and ultimately I wasn't sure exactly where the possible remains were located. So I got in a boat with DNR to go around to view, because as you can tell, this line, it shows a line between Horry County and Meagan County. So we were trying to figure out what jurisdiction was going to be taking over the case.
Okay, so that's the line that's going through the river, that's the county boundary?
Yes, it is.
How, you said you got into a boat and went out?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm never making it.
Your Honor, I believe State's Exhibit 148 will be admitted without objection.
That's correct.
All right, State's Exhibit 148, admitted in evidence.
Showing you State's Exhibit 148, is that actually a photo of you going out towards the body?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that Exhibit 148 be published.
All right.
And I believe, is that, who's that in the boat?
Wearing the orange, that's me, and then the one with the mask is a DNR officer, and I don't remember what his name is.
Okay. So there were several agencies who responded out to this call.
Yes, there were.
How was it decided who would, I'm jumping ahead, was that object eventually retrieved from the cypress stump?
Yes, it was.
How was it decided who would go out there to make that retrieval?
So the Marion County deputies ended up talking to the Marion County Sheriff, who said, Horry County crime scene is already here, so will they mind go ahead and processing the scene for us? Usually smaller agencies like Marion County would call in SLED to come and work cases, or an agency around them that had the resources to assist. So ultimately, it was decided that we would assist with the processing of the evidence. And like I said, I did go out with DNR to see what we have, because again, they're trying to describe it to me, but I gotta be able to see it so I know what resources to get, which then our fire department was called in to bring their boat so that we could utilize their boat to pull the victim out of the water.
Can you describe what you saw as you approached this object in the river?
So the first time when I went out, I just saw the tarp, as you can probably see in the last photo you just looked at. It looked like a gray tarp, and that's what you could see floating at the time. Yes, thank you. So that is exactly what I saw the very first time that I went out. And then I began to see more as I went over the second time. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but the second time when I went out with DNR, I was in this little John boat, and the other investigator was in the fire department boat. And then I could see that it was a person as they were pulling the tarp and the human remains out of the water.
May I confirm? These have already been admitted and published. So I'm showing you State's Exhibits 48, 49, and 50.
Yes,
Okay. And so did you recognize these photos?
I do.
Okay. And did you get as close as the photo in State's Exhibit 50?
I did, yes.
Okay. So if we could put up State's Exhibit 50 again. So I believe you said that the fire department boat was used?
To retrieve?
Retrieve.
Yes, to retrieve, yes.
Were you present in that area when the body was retrieved?
Yes, the DNR officer and I were still kind of parched over at that same tree that you saw in the last photo. And that was just because there's no way that we were going to be able to pull the victim onto the little John boat without flipping that boat. So we were still there so that I could visually see and direct the new investigator on what to do.
What did you see as the fire department was pulling the body out of the river?
I could see parts of a human body. I could see additional tarp. I remember them saying it's hung on something and them trying to figure out why they couldn't load the victim onto the boat. And then ultimately they found ropes, and it was connected to a cinder blocks. So they just kept pulling and pulling, and were finally able to get the cinder blocks as well on the boat.
Okay, thank you. First indulgence. So I'm going to, so no objection to 52 and 53. Okay. Your Honor, the state would move to admit States Exhibit 52 and 54. I believe that would be without objection.
That's without objection.
All right, States Exhibits 52 and 54 admitted into evidence without objection.
So if you could look at States Exhibits 52 and 54 and tell me if that accurately reflects, before we publish it, accurately reflects what you saw.
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask that they be published to the
All
jury.
right.
So let's start with Exhibit 52. Can you describe what we're seeing in States Exhibit 52?
Yes, so the blue tarp, I believe that's probably one of the firefighters' arms that you're seeing. And then the blue tarp is what the firefighters use to put down on the front of the boat so that they could pull the victim up onto the boat. And the gray tarp is what the victim was in. And then you can see it's like a green tie strap is what I would refer to it as. And you should also be able to see in the corner up here, it's harder to tell in the photo, but in person you could tell that it was a human being.
Okay. And then if we can go to States Exhibit 54.
And this is the rope that I was referring to, and the cinder block that was attached and wrapped around the victim.
After the body was brought to shore, can you give us a more full description of sort of how the body was wrapped?
Yes, so as the fire department was pulling the victim onto the boat, the victim moved a little in the wrapped tarp because of the weight of the cinder block. And they weren't prepared for a cinder block. They were just thinking that it was just somebody wrapped in a tarp. So the victim was moved a little when they pulled him up. But then when we got to shore, so the fire department boat with the victim, and then myself and the DNR officer followed behind. We got to shore, and then we were able to take photos of the victim who was wrapped in the tarp and then wrapped in a couple of blankets. He was dressed, and there were zip ties and the rope that you saw, as well as that brick.
Where before you removed the tarp, where did you see the zip ties?
On the outside of the tarp, if I remember correctly. I would have to look back.
Okay. And eventually was the tarp taken off of him?
It was.
Can you tell us what you saw?
Like, for the victim?
Yes.
So the victim was wearing a hooded sweatshirt, pants, shoes. There was a pack of opened cigarettes in his pocket, a lighter in his pocket. The victim was badly damaged, so it almost looked like he was somewhat mummified. And it was hard to tell, but there did look like there was a couple of small holes in his shirt. And but again, it's if someone is in water for a long period of time, it would be difficult to see small wounds.
Was there a lot, were you able to see a lot of blood?
No.
Did that surprise you?
No, it didn't, because again, there was no gaping wound or a head laceration, or there was no large holes, so you wouldn't really see a lot of blood. Even if there was a large hole, you wouldn't expect to see a lot of blood if someone was submerged in water for a while.
Did you or the other crime scene investigator who was with you take photos of the tarp once the victim was removed?
Yes, we did.
Thank you. Without objection.
Your Honor, the state would ask to admit Exhibit 55, I believe is without objection.
Any objection?
Yes, sir, Your Honor, without objection.
United States Exhibit 55, admitted in evidence without objection.
Is that a photo of the tarp after the victim was removed?
It is.
Your Honor, I would ask that this be published.
All right.
55. So what, if anything, did you notice about the tarp, or can you just describe what we're seeing?
So the tarp was very sandy from being in the water, and then also pulling them onto shore. And the zip ties are at both ends of the tarp. So you can't really see it in this photo, but at the top end, there's a zip tie, just like there is on the bottom. And you can see the extra part of the zip tie on the bottom, right next to the eyelets.
Did you or other investigators collect that tarp?
Yes, we did.
What did you do with it?
So everything that was collected right then, I'll go back. It was decided that this was going to be Meagan County's case. At the time, we didn't know who the male was that was deceased. So Meagan County was taking the case. We collected everything and signed it over to Meagan County Sheriff's Office. Ultimately, after the autopsy and we were able to determine who the victim was, we then went back and took custody of all of those items and brought them back to the Horry County Police Department.
I'm going to approach with State's Exhibit 131. Do you recognize what this is?
I do.
What is it?
So the box is titled Gray Tarp from Victim on Scene. And this is my handwriting, and this is how it was ultimately packaged. Do you want to open it?
Yeah. Your Honor, with the court's permission, since it's not published yet, may I just walk around the witness stand so she can open it?
May I stand, Your Honor?
You can just, if you recognize it from there.
Yes, I do.
Preston, do you want to come up before I publish it or ask that it be published?
Yeah, Your Honor.
Yeah.
No objection.
No objection.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Was 131 admitted?
Not yet.
I would ask that 131 be admitted. I believe it's without objection. Sorry. And then I would ask that it be published.
Any objection?
No objection. So I vote, Your Honor.
No, thank you.
131 admitted into evidence without objection.
Okay.
Published.
Thank you, Your Honor. And is the tarp wrapped in, I guess, protective plastic?
It is.
And why is that?
Due to, it's a biohazard, obviously, because someone that was deceased was inside the tarp, which is inside the biohazard bag.
Okay, so if you could just lift up the wrapped tarp and explain how you recognize that it is the tarp that was recovered that day.
So it is labeled with the case number and the description that it is a gray tarp. Every piece of evidence has a tag, which is here, this white tag. It feels like a tarp. It's my handwriting. It's sealed on the back with the evidence seal with the date and my initials. Inside the box with my handwriting, the date and the initials.
Thank you, I'll take that. You mentioned that there were zip ties on either end of the tarp.
There were,
Were those also recovered?
yes,
And same thing, they went initially to Meagan County and then back to Horry County?
yes.
And Your Honor, I
Without
believe there's
objection.
no objection to the admission of States Exhibit 127 and 128.
Any objection?
No, sir, Your Honor.
All right, States Exhibit 127, 128 admitted into evidence without objection.
Okay.
Are those the zip ties that were removed from the tarp?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that these be published.
All right.
And then showing, I believe you said when the tarp was sort of unwrapped that the remains were wrapped in other material.
Yes. A couple of blankets.
No objection to that, Mike?
Your Honor, I would move for admission of States Exhibits 129 and 130 without objection, I believe.
Any objection?
No, sir.
States Exhibits 129 and 130 admitted into evidence without objection.
And if you could look at those as long as those were the blanks or the sheets that were recovered from the victim's body.
Yes.
And again, how do you recognize that?
So they have the labels up here at the top. Like I was saying, every piece of evidence has a label. but I just recognize it from collecting it and packaging it.
Your Honor, I've asked that exhibits 129 and 130 be published.
All right.
Okay, and then you also, getting my work done. You also talked about, I know, I didn't know this morning. There, a cinder block that had been secured around the victim.
Yes.
Was that seized and taken into first Meagan County and then Horry County evidence?
Yes, that's correct.
No objection.
Do you want to come up?
I got a bad back.
Do you want to come
Oh,
up?
sure, I'll come here.
Let me grab the
What page number is that?
next. 36, Your Honor.
Would you like me to hear it? I know you're talking to me. You're tougher than me, sir.
Your Honor, I believe that it's being admitted without objection.
Any objection?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
State's exhibit 36, admitted in evidence without objection.
And again, Your Honor, with your permission, we'll go up so that Captain Wilson can open it. Yeah, take it. Yeah.
I wrapped it like a Christmas present.
Okay, now, if you can take that out and just tell me if that is the cinder block that was recovered from the victim. And if so, Your Honor, I'd ask that it be published.
All right.
This is,
Okay, so if you can, I'm making you carry it now, so if
Okay.
you can just kind of open up the box and show.
Your Honor, may I
Oh,
walk
50,
back?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, that's exhibit 56, thank you. 56, not
56?
56, not 36.
State's exhibit 56, not 36, is admitted in evidence without objection.
Your Honor, may I walk down with it? Thank you. Here's the cinder block. Everyone can see that?
I'll take the whole box back. That-
Well, tell me where you want this one.
Can you put it back on that box?
And then put it
And then put it on the
on.
table, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Captain. Did your involvement in this case continue after the recovery of, well, let me back up. Were those remains eventually identified as the remains of Gregory Rice?
They were.
Did your involvement in the case continue to include a search or a processing of the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
Yes, it did.
At the time that you did that search, did Horry County have any definitive information on where a crime scene might be?
No.
Do you, and if you don't, that's fine, do you know what directed attention to the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
I probably did then, but I don't remember now what actually directed us in that direction.
And basically, as crime scene, you kind of go where they ask you to go and process the scene.
Correct.
So did you, on November 13th of 2020, participate in the execution of a search warrant at the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home?
Yes, I did.
What were you looking for there?
So ultimately, we were looking for any type of physical evidence that would suggest an assault occurred there. So like cleaned up blood, body fluids, any evidence of a shooting, investigation, just to see if something possibly occurred there. So we were looking for body fluids, blood evidence, firearm casings, projectiles, that type of stuff.
Were you ever able to definitively determine that there was a crime scene there?
No.
You said that you were aware that the remains had been identified as Greg Rice. Did you ever learn how he had been killed?
Yes, we were advised that he had been shot during autopsy. There were multiple projectiles found in the victim's body that were collected.
Were those 22 caliber bullets?
I believe so.
Okay. In your, I guess it'll be about almost 26 years of law enforcement, have you received training at each one of your departments?
Yes, I have.
Has that training included training on firearms?
Yes.
Have you in fact carried a firearm as part of your profession for the last, what did I just say, 29 years?
26.
26. Okay.
Yes, I have.
So are you familiar with different types of weapons and different calibers of weapons?
Yes, I am.
What, if any, significance did it have to you that the victim had been shot with a 22 caliber firearm?
Objection, Your Honor. This is speculative. I don't understand what this is heading. I don't understand the question.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Certainly. Based on your years of experience, what, if any, significance did it have to you that the victim had been shot with multiple times with a 22 caliber firearm?
So a 22 caliber would leave a very small wound or a small hole, regardless of what the bullet is penetrating. Therefore, it would be more difficult to see.
I'm going to have to object again now that I know where the answer is headed. She's trying to qualify her as some kind of expert, it appears, in forensics. She didn't do the autopsy, you know. She's trying to skip around that and have her testify about bullet holes and what a bullet hole would leave. It's not her area of expertise, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor.
You can continue your answer. I believe you were saying that it would be smaller holes, smaller wounds.
Yes. So with over 15 years experience in crime scene, I have worked a lot of deaths, unfortunately, due to homicide and sometimes suicide. So on top of the training and the hands-on experience, I can attest that a 22 caliber firearm would leave a very small hole in regardless of what it is impacting. So that made sense to me in us not really being able to see large holes on the victim when we recovered him from the river that day. So that made sense to me. Plus, it would make sense to me for maybe someone not hearing an assault that occurred with the victim.
Objection, Your Honor.
She's saying unless she's a ballistics expert. I'll strike that last statement.
What, if I can, I'll rephrase a question.
All right.
Counsel has asked a number of other law enforcement witnesses if there were any reports of shots fired on the night that Greg Rice was killed. Does, based on your experience with different handguns or firearms, would the caliber that was used have any effect on that?
Sustained.
Okay. In your experience, you said that you've processed a number of scenes, whether they're homicides or suicides, in your 20-plus year career. How many cases involving shootings have you responded to or participated in?
Hundreds.
For each one of those cases, has there always been a call from anyone regarding shots being fired?
No.
Nothing further. I'm gathering Mr. Preston Burton will be asking questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. In crime scene, that's what you are typically involved in, crime scene?
I was at this time, yes.
Okay. What involvement do y'all have with 911 calls and reports? You're not getting that, you're part of the investigation, are you?
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, you're not getting information about whether or not there was a call from a neighbor about hearing somebody shoot a gun 5 times. Are you?
So usually when we are investigating a crime, we do what's called a round table. And so the crime scene investigator gets with the detective and then the supervisors, and everybody discusses the case as to how the call came in, what happened before, what the detective has, what the crime scene investigator has found, so on and so forth.
Okay. And so let's answer me this. Where is the crime scene? Where is the crime scene?
I don't know, sir. I can't tell you where the crime scene is.
I'm sorry.
Objection, Your Honor.
Where's
What?
The theatrics,
I
quite
apologize.
frankly.
Where's the crime scene?
I can only tell you where the victim was found.
Okay. So you can't tell us as we sit here today, in a murder trial, where the crime scene was.
Are you asking me the question again? I'm
I
sorry.
am.
Okay. No, I cannot tell you exactly where the crime scene was. That is correct.
Can you tell me, did you investigate any other potential crime scenes in this case?
In regard to this victim,
That's correct?
so we did search his residence
That's right.
and
No,
his.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying.
You did?
You go ahead.
And that was on October 16th, right?
Yes, that is before he was found.
Okay. And that was 2 weeks, right? About 2 weeks after the date of death?
So October the 16th is when I first learned that he was reported as a missing person. And they asked us to come and search his house. When I say they, the detectives asked crime scene to come and assist.
Okay. And you did that, right?
We did.
Okay. And to do that, did you park your car in the parking lot anywhere around the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get out of your car?
Yes.
Did you walk to the apartment?
Yes.
Did you take the sidewalk?
Yes.
And when you did any of that, you seem very thorough. When you did any of that, did you find any shell casings?
No.
Did you see any blood stains?
No.
2 weeks later, did anybody approach you and say, ho, 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 we're glad you're here because we heard some gunfire on October 2nd?
I don't have that information. I don't know.
Nobody approached you then? No neighbors approached you?
No.
All of these items that have been identified in your round table, did it ever get to you? Those were all items that Chris Don Tell purchased?
Yes.
Okay. He went to Lowe's by himself and got the center block
Yes.
He got the zip tie.
I don't remember everything that he purchased, but I do know that that was mentioned during our roundtable.
That's right, the round table, they told you he got the cinder block, he got the tarp, and he got the zip tie and a Pepsi. Is that right?
Like I said, I don't know exactly what he purchased, but I do remember there being video of him at the store purchasing several items.
Okay. And when you were investigating Myrtle Beach Funeral Home, did you lift any fingerprints that were relevant to this case?
I don't recall lifting any fingerprints.
No fingerprints. Okay. How about any relevant footprints?
No.
Did you lift any? Did you do any analysis for Meagan Jackson? You involved in that? Did you see any? Did you try to lift any fingerprints for Meagan Jackson?
No, I did not.
Did you do that at Greg Rice's apartment?
For fingerprints?
Yes, ma'am.
No, I did not.
Did you get any footprints of Meagan Jackson at Greg Rice's apartment?
We didn't look for footprints. We did spray the apartment.
Oh, that's right. Did y'all get a sample, like a little sample for Greg Rice's DNA?
Like his hair brush and his toothbrush, yes.
Okay. And why would you collect that evidence?
Objection, Your Honor. Captain Wilson is actually not the investigator who collected those items.
But if she knows why it was collected, I'll allow a question.
So like I was saying, he was reported missing at the beginning of October, and then October 16th when we were doing the search of his residence. Because he had been missing for that long, we wanted to have something with his DNA to have as a standard so that we could send a sled in the event he were found.
And that was in fact done, correct?
Yes.
And when you, at one of your roundtables, did you get to hear that blood was found on the shoe of Chris Dontel? Isn't that right?
Yes.
But not Meagan Jackson.
Like not her shoes?
Not anything related to Meagan Jackson. No article of clothing of hers had any of Greg Rice's blood on it. Is that correct?
As far as I know.
As far as you know. Well, we got it on the top of Chris Dontel's shoe and the bottom. Isn't that right?
I don't remember where it was on his shoe, but yes, there was blood on his shoe.
Your Honor, courts and indulgence, please. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
All right, ready to wrap?
Just very briefly, Your Honor. So if, just trying to do my math. Greg Rice is killed on, Greg Rice is killed on October 2nd. The body is recovered, his body is recovered November 7th to 8th, so a little more than a month passes, correct? Am I doing my math right? October
Yeah,
2nd?
I don't know the exact date that he was killed. I just know he was reported missing, I think, around October 4th or 5th, and then we were at his place on the 16th, and then his body was found on November 8th.
Would the passage of time from October 2nd to even October 16th, would that potentially make a crime scene more difficult to find?
Yes, it could very well. Plus, depending on the weapon that is used or how someone dies will depend on how much blood would be present to begin with.
If Gregory Rice was shot down the street from his apartment on the road leading out towards Clay Pond Road, would you expect to find shell casings or blood as you parked your patrol car in the parking lot, got out of your car, walked on the sidewalk, and conducted your search at his apartment if he was killed down the road?
No. And we would have no reason to go down the road searching for that unless the detectives were able to canvass the area and get video surveillance to say like, hey, we saw the victim walking this direction, and then we would go search that area.
If the location where Greg Rice was killed was not learned by investigators until more than 4 years after he was killed, would that affect your ability to collect any physical evidence from a crime scene?
Yes, if it's on the roadway or on the side of the road, just due from traffic going up and down the roadway, and then you have lawnmowers cutting the grass and so on and so forth.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down.
Your Honor, I would ask that Captain Wilson be released from her stand.
Any objection?